Hello and welcome back to Universal Laws with Kristy Sturdivant. I am here again with Candace Bethel, and we are going to be talking about something a little different today. Um, we were talking about the gene keys and the masculine and feminine energy. Okay, and so just hear me out, and then I'm going to turn it over to you. All right, Candace. So when we were talking about the law of gender, you have to have balance in the world. Yes, you have to have a masculine, you have to have a feminine. And we were talking about how we are often describing masculinity as sometimes being toxic, like, oh, that's a toxic masculine. But if there is a toxic masculine, then we have to have a toxic feminine because you just have to have balance. And so it got me to thinking about how one could talk about masculinity and femininity energetically in the terms of the gene keys sequence, or not the gene keys sequence, the gene keys progression, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the gene keys, you have to have your shadow, and then you move that shadow into the gift, and then the gift moves into the Siddhi. Okay, so would you agree that the shadow of the divine, or the shadow would be toxic masculinity, toxic femininity? The gift would be the dark masculine, the dark feminine, and then the Siddhi would be the divine masculine and the divine feminine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sound
Would
good so
agree that
far?
that's how that lines up.
Okay. Okay. So let's break it on down to what toxic masculinity versus toxic femininity looks like, moving up to dark masculine, dark feminine, all the way to divine masculine, divine feminine. Do we want to go from the divine down or the dark up? That sounds good.
Let's go from the dark up.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's talk about toxic masculinity, which I feel like as a culture we all know because we've been throwing that term around for, well, as long as I've been alive, right?
Yeah,
We all
same.
know what that is, right?
Hmm.
So, but let's talk about the opposite, which we don't really talk about much because we just don't want to shine a light on that. But there is such thing as a toxic feminine. Do you want to take this, Candace? What are your thoughts on the toxic feminine?
Well, it's not that we don't talk about it, it's that it's been thrown in our face for so long that having any sort of emotions or feelings or anything like that is that us as women are just toxic in general. So it's more of just this underlying theme that we know about ourselves because we've been conditioned like in this very go, 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 go. So because we have been in this masculine world, like women in a man's world, we get suppressed. And that builds pressure. And we haven't always felt safe to be able to speak up. And when there is enough trauma and enough being your voice being suppressed or you not getting your needs met, whether you're male or female, like at some point we explode. And that to me is the toxic femininity is this lack of doing. Is the toxic masculine is this do, 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 go, 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 if we want to look at it as like a energetic pull. And then the toxic feminine would be like it did so little out of fear for so long that it just erupts.
Okay.
And
Yes. Yes, you're exactly describing like the reactive and repressive nature of the shadow when they talk about it in the Gene Keys. So that makes total sense, right? Like we don't we don't call it toxic femininity. We just like put it on females or the feminine energy in general, right? We just say you're
Right.
too much, push it down, push it down, push it down. So it becomes repressive, whereas the toxicity is the reactive with the male, or not male, the masculine energy.
Correct.
Okay. So that's that. All right, now we're moving on to the dark. Dark masculine and dark feminine. I feel like the dark feminine is kind of getting it's kind of getting some press, I guess, some feed, right? There's a lot of talk about like, oh, the dark feminine and Lilith. Candace had mentioned Hecate earlier. If you're looking at like just energetic godheads type situation. But what is dark masculine versus dark feminine in your perspective?
So the dark masculine and the dark feminine kind of come into this place where we get to choose where our pressure is. Like we're not like in this like really low shadow phase. We have moved up, but we get these glimpses of going up higher, but we get stuck going back into that lower shadow. And we don't necessarily really know why, but those are those loops that are bringing us back. They're like, hey, you feel it here? And we're bringing it back. And for me, this is where like the masculine and feminine actually start to become a little bit more neutral with each other. Um, because we are kind of we're instead of fighting from this, being like, no, me and I need me, or and then I'm not afraid that I'm too afraid to be me. Now we have moved up in the feminine of like, okay, I feel comfortable with being me. Oh, but sometimes I don't. And then I feel comfortable. And then we get to see, like we see others, and we're like, okay, we'll step into that. That can feel a little scary, and then we have to come back down here. And that's similar with this, shadow masculine. They can see what they've been doing at like to themselves and to their family doesn't isn't quite working, and they're like, okay, I'm gonna be a better person. I'm gonna listen. They can conversate. Like it's when we have conversations, they're not just like immediately triggered, or if they are, they're like they apologize and they calm down and they're like, okay, no, we'll actually talk about it. They're not just blaming blaming the feminine. They've come to this like, okay, and they can come back down here, but they also have this glimmer of what's up here. Does that,
Okay.
does
I
that
love
make
that.
sense?
That makes good sense. Yes, that's perfect. Okay, a perfect description of um, the dark masculine, dark feminine, because it is kind of like a very I mean, ideally, when we are talking about this whole thing in a gene key sequence, most people stay within that gift, right? Because as humans, we're constantly moving up. The Siddhi is like goals. It's goals, right? And so to step into that divine masculine and divine feminine means that you are like ascended, in that you are neutral, in that you are operating at this like highest vibration, which is fantastic, but not typically sustainable for a normal person. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah. I would say that it um I up here in that city, we it is very neutral. You can look down at the gift and the shadow and just see it for what it is. Not that there's something wrong with either one of these, that this is just where we're at in our journey because this is where we're at in our lessons, and we need these lessons to move up. And I I feel like I have in like at least one of my gates, I can feel my city. And that one is really hard. And this really, really high, strong vibration. And it is very hard to stay in because most of the rest of the world is not in this really high vibe space. And I can get there when I'm doing my work and I can bring you into this really high vibe space. But when you step outside in the world, you're getting bombarded with everybody else's energy. And it's really uncomfortable to stay here and hold space for all of that. And it's just so much easier to come back down here. And that's a lot of the reason why people kind of stay here. Your environment matters so, so much. Like who you're around is definitely going to like show you what you can tolerate.
Okay. Yes, I agree completely. Okay, come back down to the dark side with me. Okay, just for a second. All right.
Yeah.
So we are talking about the dark masculine and the dark feminine, which most of us live in anyways, but there's a lot of really good, juicy lessons that we can get in this space. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, um, okay, so we talked a couple of weeks ago about how the dark feminine, well, we'll call it the dark feminine. We just called it the feminine urge where we are just holding space for everyone. And it's starting to become like a little bit too much. It's like it's too much. It's going to erupt as, the feminine energy. It feels like it's been a little bit repressed for a little bit too long. And so we almost as the feminine energy as it moves into this year 2027, we need to put up like stronger barriers around ourselves. Yeah. What do you think the big
Correct.
lesson is from the dark masculine side? What's the side that we should be looking at the dark masculine to kind of learn and integrate and move up into the divine masculine, divine feminine neutral status?
Yeah. So anywhere we're reactive, anywhere where we're triggered, anywhere that doesn't feel good, like that, that is your lesson. That is your key. It's really, we only learn like in the shadow. We don't really learn in those higher states. We go to those higher states because we learn what we needed to learn from those shadows. And then from that, the universe is like, oh, here you go. Like, oh, thank you. uh,
Yes.
so, yeah.
The universe will throw you a bone and show you that you're
it,
doing well. It's nice. Okay. It's a good thing about the universe. Does that for you.
it really does.
Yeah.
I
And it'll
didn't believe
keep
that at
showing you this
first.
lesson too, right? It's gonna keep like say, like you're gonna do this. We're gonna trigger you until you move past this and figure it out, right?
Yeah, so many of you listening to this are probably feeling some pressure somewhere. And it may be like silently tapping at you when you're like trying to rest and sleep, or maybe it's just in your face all the time. But it's something. And those are your lessons right now to look at yourself. If you are looking at other people, you are not growing. You are in victim mode, you are in ego mode, and you will not move past this. You will continue to loop around. It's not to shame you, it's just the way energy works. So these are here for lessons, and they're meant for you to look at them, place them over here, and see how they're affecting you and others, not to put shame or guilt on them, to just see, okay, this is here as a pain point, whether it's a physical pain or emotional pain, for us to push through. What do I need to learn? What do I need to kind of push through? And that's where we pause in the feminine and really listen to what the body needs, and the body will tell you what it needs. And then we go into the masculine and we use that masculine energy to move up.
It's all a big learning process. And I think that it's worth saying that the toxic masculine, feminine, dark masculine, feminine, divine masculine and feminine, it's all wrapped up inside all of us, right? And so we do have to look at
Mhm.
different parts of this as we are going through this like weird earth simulation that we're in. And it's helpful to just kind of like break it down and be like, this is what this looks like, and this is what this looks like, and this is this. So this is not anything about any certain like part of humanity or people. Like everybody has this in them. And it's very important to kind of just recognize it so that you can step back and observe it and grow from it because that's the goal.
Yes, exactly. And we use the gene keys in human design to help us see the nature of why we are doing the things that we do. And it really does help knowing your chart to be able to go look at that and be like, oh, yeah, I am standing right in the shadow right now. Okay, I'm gonna step back. And how do I get back up here?
I do think that the Gene Keys is a very helpful system because just to know it, it almost gives you permission to like really step into your gifts and everything. But it also kind of gives you those words and opportunities to kind of look a little bit deeper and see like this is like my trip up. This is where I am triggered most often, and this is where it's at and everything. So if you don't have, a handle on your human design, just go look it up. There's a lot of information on there. Candace works with human design all the time in her practice, and she knows a lot and how it works in the body and everything. But just knowing kind of where you are prone to triggers or anything, it's just a very helpful tool. It's not that you'll need it forever, but it's kind of like a nice light blueprint of who you are and how you kind of maneuver through this reality.
It's very helpful if you're confused about your reality or you feel like everything's always happening to you or you don't understand what your next steps are. One of the biggest examples is there is a channel of struggle and a channel of judgment. If you struggle all the time and you are really judgy, that's likely like in your design to push you through and into higher places in your life, but you probably just loop around because judgment and struggle are really hard to get out of, and it's a root pressure. And we're often judging ourselves and struggling with ourselves, but just projecting it out to the world. And so we just get stuck in this loop.
Yeah, those
So
are intense ones.
right. But it's really helpful to know if you have that in your chart, because if you can see that in your chart and be like, oh, this is actually like, this is how I progress. And if you can step out of the judgment and the struggle and be like, okay, how do I move up into it instead of being like, why am I always here?
I love the channel of struggle though, because I think that it is such a major catalyst for like huge quantum leaping type change. And as someone who has two people in my house who have that channel, I see it a lot and I
Yeah, I
feel it a
bet.
lot.
And it's such a powerful, like amazing channel. But if you keep looping through it, it can be really painful for the person and really painful to watch from the
It
outside.
really can be. Yeah. And so I think just, you know, to know oneself is always a good thing to do. So human design is just a really very easy and relatable language to do that in. So, and taking it to that next level with the gene keys like we did today. Also, very fun to look at and examine and play around with and everything because there's a lot of
Yes,
really good information in that ginormous book of the Gene Keys.
there is. It is like it's one of my favorite things like to go down the rabbit hole, and it is so fun. And if you're one of those people that like health stuff, there are all kinds of things in there for that, for each gate.
Yes, and definitely go to Candace for that because she shed some light on some crazy things that I was like, what? That's in the Gene Keys? I mean, so
Mhm.
much depth there.
Yep.
So
That's my
check out
jam,
her
the health
website.
stuff. If you've been
Absolutely.
struggling for health stuff with health stuff for years and really not getting anywhere with doctors, um, I'm not a doctor by any means, but I do look at it through a much different different lens, and often that's helpful.
I mean, most of the time, dis-ease is like stuck energy in the body. And
Yes.
so having someone who can see it from a completely different point of view is a super fantastic. So I'm going to drop her link in the show notes so that you can find her and get all of her knowledge and goodness. And yeah, so divine masculine, divine feminine, dark masculine, dark feminine, toxic masculine, toxic feminine. We got it all inside of us. And how exciting is that? That we get to feel all of that and work with that every single day. Good times.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And that is all we have for you guys this week, and we will see you later. Bye.
Bye, guys.